June 25, 1944, 9:14 hours. Near Saint-Lô, Normandy. Low clouds hang over broken hedgerows. The air smells of dust and burned fuel. A flight of German FW-190 skims just above the tree line, engines straining, flak bursts crack open in the distance. Then a new sound cuts through everything, a deep, steady roar. Louder than expected, heavier. The German pilots look up. They see them diving out of the sun, big fighters, thick wings. Broad noses, not sleek, not elegant, massive. The P-47 Thunderbolt drops fast, faster than seems possible for something that large. Wine screams over metal skin, tracers flash past the canopy. The American pilot pushes the stick forward and lines up the road below. A split second of silence. Then fire streaks forward, not machine gun fire. Not bombs, rockets. White smoke trails slash through the air. They hit the road in a blinding flash. Vehicles flip, men scatter. Shockwaves ripple through the fields. The German pilots pull hard and climb away. One mutters into his mask, confused and shaken. Since when do fighters fire rockets? On the ground, American troops watch in stunned silence as the Thunderbolts climb away, wings still smoking. This moment is violent and brief, but it is only one small piece of a much larger story. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. The P-47 Thunderbolt did not begin its life as a ground attack terror. It began as a high-altitude interceptor. In 1940, the United States Army Air Forces needed a fighter that could climb fast and fight above 25,000 feet. Designers at Republic Aviation, led by Alexander Kartveli, answered with something radical. They built a fighter around an engine. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, 18 cylinders. Over 2,000 horsepower. To feed it enough air at altitude, they added a massive turbo supercharger buried deep in the fuselage. Ducts ran from the nose, under the cockpit, and back again. The result was huge, empty. The P-47 weighed more than many bombers from the early 1930s, loaded for combat. It could exceed 8 tons. It carried 8.50 caliber machine guns, 4 in each wing, with 3,400 rounds of ammunition. At altitude, it could reach speeds over 430 miles per hour. It could dive even faster. At first, American planners saw it as a bomber escort, an air superiority fighter. Rockets were not part of the original plan. The early war doctrine favored bombs and guns. Rockets were seen as inaccurate and crude. That changed as the war moved to Western Europe. By late 1943, Allied forces needed a way to destroy German armor, trucks, trains, and strong points fast. Bombs required precision. Strafing required repeated passes under heavy fire. British aircraft had already shown the value of rockets against ground targets. American commanders paid attention. Engineers began fitting the P-47 with launch rails under the wings. The Thunderbolt was strong enough to carry them, strong enough to survive the mission. Early use of rockets on American fighters was rough. Pilots trained on guns and bombs, not on guided rockets. Initial fittings used small tubes adapted from ground weapons. Accuracy was poor. Rockets wobbled in flight. Firing them threw off aim and balance. Training reports were blunt. One squadron noted, "Rockets miss, unless fired too close for comfort." Another warned, "Blast damage possible to own aircraft if released wrong." Early practice runs showed hit rates below 5% against moving targets. Some pilots disliked them. They called them barn door weapons, heavy, slow, hard to aim. German intelligence also dismissed them. A Luftwaffe report from early 1944 stated, "American fighters rely on strafing. Rocket armament appears rare and ineffective." There were accidents. Rockets failed to ignite. Rails tore loose under high-speed dives. One pilot wrote after a training flight, "Fired 2. Felt like the wings kicked me back. Losses mounted during early ground attack missions. P-47 units flying low over France and Belgium faced dense flak. In some squadrons, aircraft losses reached 10% per week. Critics argued that adding rockets only made the Thunderbolts heavier and more vulnerable. But the aircraft itself survived punishment that would destroy lighter fighters. Pilots began to notice something important. They could take hits and keep flying. The thick wings and radial engine absorbed damage. The weight that once seemed a flaw became an advantage. Experience changed everything. By mid-1944, Thunderbolt pilots learned how to use rockets correctly. They adjusted dive angles. They learned release timing. They stopped trying to hit tanks from high altitude and instead attacked from shallow dives at 800 to 1,200 feet. New rockets arrived. The 5-inch high-velocity aircraft rocket, USAAF, entered service late in 1944. It weighed about 140 pounds. It flew fast and straight. It carried a powerful warhead that could punch through armor or explode inside buildings. The P-47 could carry up to 10 of them, 5 under each wing. Combined with bombs and machine guns, it became a flying arsenal. A typical load might include a 500-pound bombs and 8 rockets. Still it flew. The Thunderbolts also had range. With drop tanks, it could stay over the battlefield 4 hours. It could orbit, wait for calls, then strike. Its dive speed allowed fast attacks and quick escape. Pilots used speed as armor. Hit rates improved. Against trucks and trains, rockets achieved devastating results. One after-action report noted, convoy destroyed in one pass. Rockets caused panic. Enemy abandoned vehicles. German forces adapted slowly. Camouflage helped little against a rocket strike. Once the Thunderbolts arrived, movement in daylight became deadly. The aircraft had found its role. August 7, 1944, near Mortagne, France. German forces launch a counterattack to cut off Allied advances. Panzer units move through narrow roads and wooded hills. American ground troops struggle to hold. Then the weather clears. At first light, P-47 squadrons arrive. Over 300 Thunderbolts take part during the day. Pilots receive coordinates from forward air controllers using radios. They dive one by one through smoke and cloud. Rockets scream down into columns of tanks and half-tracks. Roads become blocked with wreckage. One pilot lines up a Panther tank. He fires 2 rockets. One misses. The other strikes near the turret. Flames erupt. The tank crew bails out. German flak is heavy. Black bursts fill the sky. A Thunderbolt takes hits in the wing and engine. Oil sprays across the windshield. The pilot keeps flying and fires his rockets anyway. By evening, the counterattack has stalled. Dozens of vehicles are destroyed. German commanders later admit that air attack broke the momentum. November 26, 1944, near Aachen, Germany. Snow covers the ground. Visibility is poor. A pair of P-47s hunts a rail line feeding the front. They spot a train moving slowly through a cut. The lead pilot dives. Flak rises from rail cars. He holds steady and fires for rockets. To strike the locomotive, steam and smoke explode outward. The train grinds to a halt. The wingman follows with machine gun fire. Boxcars burn. German troops scatter into the trees. Within minutes, the line is useless. A German soldier later writes in his diary, "The rockets come without warning. There is no place to hide." March 23, 1945, near the Rhine River, Allied forces prepare to cross. German defenders dig in with anti-aircraft guns and armor. Thunderbolts attack from dawn until dusk. One squadron faces intense fire. A pilot counts the seconds as he dives. Flak shakes the cockpit. He fires all 10 rockets in a single pass. Explosions ripple across gun positions. On the return flight, his aircraft has holes in the fuselage and one cylinder out. The engine keeps running. He lands safely. By the end of the day, German resistance near the crossing points has collapsed. The impact of rocket-armed P-47s went beyond the battlefield. Industry adapted quickly. American factories produced over 15,000 Thunderbolts during the war. Thousands of rockets rolled off assembly lines each month. Training programs expanded to teach rocket tactics. Ground crews learned to load and maintain complex ordnance under combat conditions. Airfields near the front stocked fuel, ammunition, bombs, and rockets in massive quantities. A single Thunderbolt group could fly hundreds of sorties per week. Compared to German aircraft, the P-47 was rugged and reliable. Late-war Luftwaffe fighters struggled with fuel shortages and limited training. Rocket-armed FW-190s existed, but were fewer and less flexible. American doctrine emphasized constant pressure. Thunderbolts flew armed reconnaissance. They attacked targets of opportunity. Anything that moved was at risk. This strained German logistics. Truck movement slowed, rail lines broke down. Units ran short of fuel and ammunition. Even when rockets did not destroy a target, they forced dispersion and delay. The psychological effect was severe. German pilots respected the Thunderbolt. Ground troops feared it. They called it the Jobbo with rockets. Some nicknamed it the Flying Anvil. Soldiers learned to freeze when they heard the roar. Running made you visible. Hiding often failed. One German officer wrote, "The rockets kill the nerve before they kill the body." Pilots in the Luftwaffe noted its toughness. One commented after combat, "You hit it, and it keeps coming." Morale suffered. Movement by day became dangerous. Commanders ordered convoys to travel at night. Even then, fear remained. The sound of an engine overhead caused men to dive for cover. By late war, the Thunderbolt continued to evolve. Improved sights helped aiming. Better rockets increased accuracy. Pilots refined tactics, firing in pairs or staggered runs. Some aircraft received strengthened wings and better armor. The P-47M and Ardennes variants focused on speed and range. Others specialized fully in ground attack. As jet aircraft appeared, the Thunderbolt stayed relevant. It did what it did well: close support. Hard strikes, survival. By war's end, P-47s had destroyed thousands of vehicles, trains, and artillery pieces. Losses were heavy, but acceptable given the effect. Many pilots completed dozens of missions. After the war, veterans looked back with pride. What began as an oversized interceptor became one of the most effective attack aircraft of the conflict. A German veteran later said, "When the Thunderbolts came with rockets, the battle was already lost." The legacy of the P-47 with rockets is simple. Power, durability, and adaptation turned doubt into dominance.